Hey lambs, welcome to your Florida Man Friday. In this episode, I'm talking about an 8-year-old boy who witnessed his father getting shot over a tree trimming dispute. Before we begin, I want to remind you that this episode and all my episodes are sponsored by my lambs in Patreon. Patreon.com/Love and Murder. If you want to be a sponsor of Love and Murder, then head on over to Patreon, where you'll get commercial-free episodes, intro-free episodes, Kai rants, bonuses, and a community of lambs. And you get to be a supporter of Love and Murder. Patreon.com/Love and Murder. Now let's get into this Florida Man Friday. Now, this incident happened in September 2023 in De Leon Springs, which is about 30 miles east of Daytona Beach. Police received 2 911 calls on a Sunday in September after about 7 p.m. In one of the 911 calls, it was actually the perpetrator who made the call and told dispatchers that he walked up to the victim with his gun and told him to get off of his property. Quote, "I was pointing a gun at him, trying to get him off my property, and he kept walking to me real close, so I shot him." He told dispatchers that he normally keeps the first 2 cylinders in his gun empty, and, quote, "First time I pulled the trigger, it just clicked, and he kept walking towards me. He heard the click, so I pulled the trigger again, and it shot him." So, of course, police rushed over to the property. The man in question, perpetrator, 78-year-old Edward Druzolowski, had shot and killed 42-year-old Brian Ford. When police arrived, deputies, quote, "attempted life-saving measures until EMS arrived. However, when EMS arrived, Brian was pronounced dead at the scene." Investigators asked what happened here, and Edward said that he was in his house watching a football game when his wife came in and told him that Brian was cutting tree limbs on their property. So he ran to his bedroom and grabbed his loaded .357 Magnum revolver from his nightstand and put it behind his back. He went outside to speak with Brian and get him off his property. Brian then said something like, "Mind your business," and then started cursing. And that's when Edward pointed his gun at Brian and said, "You need to get off my property or I'm going to shoot you." So then Brian just started walking towards Edward. Quote, "I was pointing a gun at him, trying to get him off my property, and he kept walking to me real close, so I shot him." That's when, he said he had the 2 chambers empty, so he did the first one click, and he kept walking. So when he shot him the second time, he said this time, surprisingly, a bullet did come out, and it shot Brian right in the chest. And he figured, because Brian wasn't wearing a shirt, he could see where it went, and he figured that the bullet went into one of his lungs. So then Edward told his wife to call 911 to get Brian help. So that was his recounting of this scene. When police spoke to Brian's wife, she said Brian was not threatening him or anything. He didn't have anything in his hands. He wasn't saying anything. He didn't look menacing. He was just walking up to him. When police asked Edward if this was true, he said yes, he didn't have any weapons in his hand, and he didn't threaten to kill him or harm him. Unfortunately, like I said, his 8-year-old son also saw this. And when he was shot, he was actually running around screaming, "My daddy's been shot! My daddy's been shot! My daddy's been shot!" So police did question this young boy as well. And he told police that his father had told Edward, quote, "I'll cut your head off with the chainsaw." And his father was holding a chainsaw, but it wasn't on. And when police did inspect the crime scene around the body, they did find a chainsaw and 2 knives next to his body. Edward also did tell investigators that, quote, he was afraid Ford would have hurt or killed him if he did not shoot him. He said he suffers from osteoporosis and feared that if he was pushed by Ford, quote, it would hurt really bad. And that because of his medical condition, he doesn't feel safe confronting anyone without a firearm. And also, quote, with Ford's reputation, he felt safer with a gun in his hands. So the whole thing about Ford's reputation was that he knew that Brian had been to prison. And he said before in the past, Brian had told him that he used to fight in prison and he never lost a fight. So police arrested Edward and placed him in jail without bond. Brian's wife said that the two families hadn't spoken in years, and they never had any fights. They never had any conflicts. And even though his son said that his father said, "I'll cut off your head," Edward said that Brian didn't threaten him at all, didn't say anything to him at all. He just said it was his reputation that made him afraid. Brian's mother told Fox News that, quote, "Nobody bothered anybody. It's hard to understand why this even happened." Volusia County Sheriff Mike Chitwood said, quote, "Somebody is dead over tree branches. Are you kidding me? I can't imagine what that 8-year-old little boy is going through his mind that he watched his father die in front of him." The sheriff thinks that Edward is going to use the, quote, "stand your ground" case and argue in court that he opened fire in self-defense because he was afraid for his life. Due to his medical condition, which he brought up to investigators, his osteoporosis, he thought that if this guy were to get close enough to him and actually physically touch him, it would cause him harm. However, the sheriff doesn't think that this is going to work because what should have happened was that you should have called police. You should have gone into your house, closed the door, called police, and have let the police deal with it, not taking it into your own hands. Quote, "You just can't go around shooting people just because they step on your property." So he is in jail on a second-degree murder charge, and he was supposed to go to arraignment on October 12th, but I didn't see any updates on this. So that is today's Florida Man Friday. What did you think of that episode? Do you think he was right to be afraid when the guy literally did absolutely nothing? He was just cutting branches that had gone over the property line. Do you think it was justified that Edward was that damn scared that he shot him? He grabbed his gun before he even went out there and spoke to Brian. So to me, that was premeditated. Personally, me, that was premeditated. You grabbed your gun before you even went out there to talk to him. So in your head, you figured something was going to happen. And I agree with the sheriff that if you thought something was going to happen and you thought that you were so frail and weak, and if he even put a finger on you, your chest would cave in and break, you should have called 911. Or if you threatened him with your gun and you see he wasn't backing down, you should have gone inside and called 911. But I think you didn't want to look like a pussy out there in front of your wife or something. So you decided to take matters into your own hand. And you had another choice. When you heard that click, that first click, and he still didn't stop coming, that was your choice right there, but you chose to click it to pull the trigger again. So today's poll question is, do you think Edward should face jail time for this? Or do you think the court should hold up the stand your ground charge and he should be released? Obviously, you already know my opinion, which is, to me, he sounded like this was premeditated because he grabbed his gun before he even went outside to go talk to him. So I think he needs punishment for this. So let me know your thoughts. Answer the poll. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And let me go to your comments from the previous Florida Man Friday. So last week's Florida Man Friday was Florida man arrested for botched home castration. If you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to last Friday's episode. Now, remember I had an issue. I was trying to pronounce the word eunuch, and I could have cut that out so y'all could have just heard me say eunuch, but I left it in because I'm not perfect. I'm not going to let y'all think I'm perfect, and I thought it was funny, so I left it in. So Yamika says, you didn't read the copy before the episode. You didn't know eunuch was spelled that way with the eyeball emojis. So Yamika, dear lamb Yamika, no, with my Kai rants and Florida Man Fridays and true crime rants, those things, no, I don't read the copy before the episode because I want you to get my genuine reaction for it. That's what these episodes are about. And they're short episodes, so a lot of research doesn't go into it. I get the articles, I get some articles together, get all the facts, and literally read it to you on air. That's what the true crime rants are about. It wouldn't be my authentic emotions if I read it first, prepared for it, and then spit it back to you. Plus, it would add more work to my plate, which all my time goes into researching and writing up Sunday's full episode. So if I did do the same thing that I did for Sunday's episode, I would never have time left in my day to do Florida Man Friday, true crime rants, midweek Wednesday, and everything like that. Plus, I have other episodes in Patreon and Kai Rants and everything like that. So I would not have time in my day to do anything else. So no, I don't read the copy before the episode. On to your second question. No, I didn't know eunuch was spelled that way. I didn't know that I told y'all that I was a spelling bee champion. So I don't know why that's really shocking. I mean, you should be proud that I figured out it was eunuch, because I don't really know how eunuch is spelled. I pronounced it out like you are supposed to do when you don't know a word, and I figured out it was eunuch. So no, I didn't know eunuch was spelled that way. I'm a terrible speller. My parents tried to get me to spell properly by going through the dictionary, to which I rebelled at that because I didn't like that. I wasn't going through the entire dictionary, and I'm just not a good speller. And I never claimed to be a good speller. And I'm completely, utterly, actually at peace with it. I'm a horrible speller. My daughter spells better than me. Don't care. I'm good at other things. So that's the answer to your question. And I'm not saying this in a negative way towards you. If it came out sounding negative, and I'm really not trying to like confront you or anything like that, I'm literally just answering what you asked. I didn't know eunuch was spelled that way, and I'm proud of it. Don't care. So that's my answer to both of your questions. Sangu Moon 5456 said, "Oh my God, this was crazy." Yes, it was, Sangun. Soupme 7558 said, "You have to be castrated before puberty to make one a eunuch." I didn't know that. So what are you considered if you're castrated after puberty? Just a castrated guy? You just did all that for nothing? I was just wondering what it makes you after puberty. Flavor Dustu 8164 says, "I love this. Just popped up randomly, and this series is what I've needed my whole life. Can't wait to binge your entire channel. I'm not surprised after the Pain Olympics series, but wow, it's crazy to think it's a thing here in the US. It's weird AF." What, a botched castration is a thing in the US? I mean, that could have happened anywhere. That's not just a US thing. That could have happened anywhere. However, thank you for subscribing and binging my whole channel. Another Sup Me 7558 responded to another episode that I had, which was the Florida Man Friday before. And they said, "I mean, syringes have caps and are real skinny. It would be easy to purse them." Now, do you mean they put it in something, or you mean just hold your butthole together like purse in your butthole? Either way, you had 3 syringes up your butthole. That's not really easy to hold that up there for hours while you're standing up, walking, sitting, moving. At least I wouldn't think so. Now, apparently, maybe you know more than me. I don't know, but I can't see holding 3 syringes, whether they have caps, whether they're in a case, which I don't think they were in a case, because he just was like, plop, 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 look at what I found. 3 syringes in my butthole. I don't know how this got there, officer. So I don't think they were in like one sack. I think they were individual. So I wasn't thinking that they were in his butthole with the actual needle part exposed. Now that, my friend, would have been impressive. How did you not puncture literally every internal organ? Because to me it would have like punctured your colon and then swam up to your lungs, and then like, that's what I'm just thinking. But anyways, if it was uncapped, that is a feat, and he needs to be in the circus like immediately. But of course, I did think it had a cap on it, so the needle part wasn't exposed. But it's still, how? 3 syringes? Yeah, I still can't see it. It's not easy. I can't see it, but that's just me. So anyway, I look forward to reading your comments from this Florida Man Friday. Don't forget, if you want to support Love and Murder, patreon.com/Love and Murder, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.